Tom never thought his life would change in one day. He was just an ordinary young man living in a small apartment on Earth. His life was simple. Every morning, he ate the same breakfast, toast and eggs. Every afternoon, he went to his part-time job at the repair shop. Every evening, he sat at his old desk and looked at strange things on the internet. Most days felt the same, but this day was different. Tom was sitting in his chair, scrolling on his old tablet. He wasn't really looking for anything. He just wanted to pass the time. He clicked on a strange website that sold all kinds of things. Some of the items made him laugh. A used robot hand, a coffee cup that glowed in the dark, a pair of shoes that claimed to help you jump higher. Tom smiled but didn't buy anything. Then something caught his eye. It was a simple ad. It had only a few words. Space station for sale. Only $1. Tom laughed. Yeah, sure, he said to himself. A space station for $1. He thought maybe it was a joke, but he clicked on it anyway. There was a picture. It showed a big silver space station floating in the sky. It looked real. It even had windows and shiny lights. Tom looked at the price again. Only $1. He shook his head. This can't be real, he whispered. But something in his heart told him to try. It was just $1. He had $1 in his pocket right now. So he clicked buy. The screen blinked once. Then it said, "Congratulations, Captain Tom. The station now belongs to you." Tom laughed again. "Captain Tom," he said out loud. He felt silly. Sure, why not? After that, he forgot about it. He made dinner, noodles and soup. He watched an old movie. Then he went to bed. His life was the same as always. But the next morning, everything changed. Tom woke up early. It was cold in his room. He got out of bed and rubbed his eyes. Then he saw something on his desk, something glowing. It was a small key. It floated in the air and shined softly like a tiny star. There was also a letter next to it. Tom picked it up carefully. The letter said, "Welcome, Captain Tom. You are now the owner of Station Nova 1. Use this key to travel to your new home. Simply hold it and say, 'Let's go.'" Tom stared at the paper. "This is crazy," he said, but the key floated closer to his hand. It was warm, not cold, and it made a soft humming sound. For a moment, Tom didn't move. Then he laughed. "Let's go," he said. The key flashed brightly, and everything around Tom disappeared. When he opened his eyes, Tom was no longer in his small apartment. He was standing in a big room. The walls were silver and shiny. There were lights along the floor. Some blinked slowly. The air smelled clean, like fresh rain. He took a few steps. The floor was smooth, and his footsteps echoed quietly. "Where am I?" he whispered. Then he remembered. The key, the letter, the station. This is the space station," Tom said. His heart beat faster. He walked to a window and looked out. His mouth fell open. He saw stars, hundreds of stars, shining all around him. Below the station was a huge planet. It was blue and green, with clouds swirling in the sky. It was beautiful. Tom smiled. "I think I just bought a real space station for $1, he said. He touched the window with his hand. "This is amazing." But then he heard something. A sound. A soft noise. It was like someone breathing. Tom turned around slowly. He was sure he had come alone. "Hello," he called out. No answer. He took a deep breath and walked down the hallway. He followed the sound. His shoes made soft tapping sounds on the floor. As he turned a corner, he saw a door. It was half open. There was light coming from inside. Tom stepped closer and peeked in. And that was when he saw her. A girl. She had purple hair and soft blue skin. She was wearing a tool belt and holding something that looked like a wrench. She was working on a control panel, but she stopped and looked up at him with big green eyes. They stared at each other for a moment. Then the girl spoke softly. "Are you the new captain?" Tom blinked. I guess I am." And so, Tom's new life on the space station had just begun. Tom stood there, not sure what to do. The girl with purple hair kept staring at him. Her big green eyes blinked slowly, as if she was trying to figure out if he was real. He felt nervous but smiled anyway. "Oh, hello," Tom said. "I'm Tom." The girl tilted her head, looking curious. Then she stood up. She was a little taller than him, but her face was soft and kind. She wiped her hands on her jumpsuit, leaving faint marks from the tool she was holding. "My name is Lyra," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, like a gentle breeze. "You are the new captain." Tom rubbed the back of his neck. "I think so," he said. "I bought this space station for, well, $1. Lyra blinked again, then gave a small nod. "I see," she said. She didn't seem surprised, which made Tom wonder how often this happened. "The station chose you." Tom was about to ask what she meant when Lyra turned back to the control panel she had been working on. "The power system is old," she explained, pointing to some blinking lights. "I've been fixing it, but it's slow work." She glanced at him. "Do you know anything about machines?" Tom smiled a little. "I worked at a repair shop on Earth," he said. "I fixed small things. Toasters, coffee makers, fans." Lyra looked thoughtful. "Maybe that will help," she said. She handed him a tool that looked a bit like a screwdriver, but it glowed at the tip. Tom took it carefully. He knelt beside her, and they both worked quietly for a while. Lyra showed him how to adjust the wires and clean the circuits. It was different from Earth machines, but Tom understood the basics. After a few minutes, the lights on the panel turned green. Lyra gave him a small smile. "Good job," she said. Tom felt proud. "Thanks." They sat there for a moment in comfortable silence. Then Tom cleared his throat. "So, you live here, alone?" Lyra shook her head. "No," she said. "There are others." She stood up and motioned for him to follow her. "I will introduce you." Tom followed Lyra down the hallway. The station was bigger than he thought. Some parts looked old and dusty, but other parts were clean and bright. Lyra seemed to know where she was going. She walked quietly, but with confidence. After a few minutes, they reached a large room. The walls were covered in windows, showing stars and the big planet below. There was a table in the middle, with chairs around it. A girl with silver hair was sitting in one of the chairs, kicking her feet as she ate something from a bowl. She looked up when they came in. Her golden eyes sparkled. "Lyra, you're back," she said cheerfully. Then she saw Tom. "Oh, who's he?" Lyra smiled gently. "This is Tom," she said. "He's the new captain." The silver-haired girl jumped up so fast her chair almost fell over. She ran to Tom and grabbed his hand with both of hers. "Hi, I'm Mira," she said brightly. "I'm the pilot. Well, I try to be. Sometimes I crash into things, but not too often." Tom chuckled. Mira's energy was like a bright light in the room. "Nice to meet you," he said. "Come on," Mira said, pulling him toward the next room. "You have to meet Zara and Nia." Tom followed, feeling a little dizzy from all the excitement. They entered another room that looked like a small medical bay. A girl with long dark hair and bright pink skin was sitting at a desk, reading something on a small screen. "Zara," Mira called. "This is Tom. He's our new captain." Zora looked up slowly. Her eyes were a deep purple. She studied Tom for a long moment, then stood up. She walked over to him, still watching him quietly. Tom tried to smile. "Hi." Zora didn't smile back. She crossed her arms. "We'll see if you're a real captain," she said simply. Then she turned and walked back to her desk. Tom scratched his head. "She seems serious." Mira laughed. "She's always like that," she said. "But she's really nice once you get to know her." Next, They went to the kitchen, where a girl with short orange hair was cooking something in a big pot. She looked up and smiled warmly. "Hello," she said. "You must be Tom. I'm Nia. I cook for everyone. Would you like to try something?" Tom nodded. "Sure." Nia handed him a bowl of soup. It was purple and smelled sweet. Tom took a small sip. It tasted like fruit and honey. "This is good," he said. Nia beamed. "Thank you." After they finished eating, Tom sat down with all the girls. They looked at him with curious eyes. Mira smiled. "So, Captain, what's our next adventure?" Tom laughed softly. "I have no idea." But deep inside, he felt something new. Maybe, just maybe, this was where he belonged. Tom woke up to a soft humming sound. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then he opened his eyes and saw the shiny silver walls, blinking lights, and a round window showing the stars. This wasn't his small apartment on Earth. This was Station Nova 1. He sat up and stretched. The bed was soft and warm, and the room was cozy. On the small table beside him was a plate of fruit and a cup of something that smelled like sweet tea. There was also a note. "Good morning, Captain. Eat well. You have work to do today. Nia." Tom smiled as he read it. He picked up a round purple fruit and took a bite. It tasted like a mix of apples and berries. After finishing his breakfast, he stood up and got dressed. There was a simple blue uniform hanging on the wall. It fit perfectly. The word Captain was stitched on the front. He laughed softly. "Captain Tom," he said to himself. As soon as he stepped into the hallway, he saw Mira waving at him. "Morning, Captain," she said cheerfully. "Ready for your first job?" Tom blinked. "Job?" Mira nodded. "Lyra wants you in the control room. Something about the station's power." Tom followed Mira through the halls. They passed rooms with plants growing inside, long windows showing distant stars, and doors that made a quiet whoosh sound when they opened. It was all so new and exciting. In the control room, Lyra was sitting in front of a big screen. Her purple hair was tied back, and she was typing on a glowing keyboard. Zara stood beside her, holding a tablet and reading numbers. "Captain," Lyra said without turning, "we have a problem." Tom walked closer. "What kind of problem?" Lyra pointed to the screen. "The station's main battery is almost empty. We need to recharge it, or the lights and air will shut down." Tom frowned. "How do we charge it?" Zara answered this time. "There's an energy field near a small moon. If we fly there, we can collect enough power." Mira clapped her hands. "Yay! A flying mission," she said, spinning the pilot chair around. "I'm ready." Tom looked at them all. They were waiting for him to decide. He took a deep breath. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." Mira sat at the controls, her fingers moving quickly. "Releasing docking clamps," she said with a grin. "Engines on." Tom stood behind her, watching the stars on the screen. The station gave a gentle rumble as it started moving. Outside the windows, everything shifted. The stars seemed to slide across the sky as the station turned. Lyra checked her screens. "Speed steady," she said. Nia walked in, carrying a basket of snacks. "Energy flights make me hungry," she said with a smile. She handed Tom a small bag of crispy chips. "For you, Captain." "Thanks," Tom said with a smile. He took one and crunched on it while he watched Mira guide the station. After a little while, Mira pointed at the window. "There it is," she said. Ahead of them was a small moon. It was pale silver, and it glowed softly. Around it was a bright energy field. It looked like a soft cloud made of light. Swirls of blue and white danced across it. Zara stood up. "We need to get close," she said, "but not too close." Tom nodded. "Mira, can you do that?" Mira grinned. "I can try." Slowly, she moved the station toward the energy field. The whole room glowed as they got closer. The lights turned soft blue, and the screens blinked gently. Starting energy collection, Lyra said. She pressed a few buttons, and the station gave a low hum. On the screen, Tom saw a bar filling up. Power level: 10%, 20%, 30%. Everyone waited quietly. Mira held the controls steady. Nea munched on her snacks. Zara watched the numbers. Lyra smiled softly as the power kept growing. Soon, the bar reached 100%. "We did it," Lyra said. "Full power." Tom let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "Great work, everyone." Mira spun her chair around. "See, easy," she said proudly. Suddenly, the station gave a small shake. Lyra's eyes widened. "Something's wrong." Zara checked her tablet. "The energy field is pulling us in." Tom frowned. "Can we break free?" Mira grabbed the controls. "I'll try," she said. The station rumbled again. The windows showed the glowing field swirling faster. Tom held onto the chair as Mira pushed buttons and turned levers. "We're stuck," she said, her voice worried now. Lyra stood up. "Captain, we need to release extra weight. It will help us move." Tom thought fast. "What can we release?" Zora pointed to some old cargo crates. "They're empty. If we let them go, it might work." "Do it," Tom said. Lyra pressed a button. On the screen, they saw the crates float away from the station. Slowly, the station started to move back. "We're free," Mira cheered. Everyone smiled with relief. Tom took a deep breath and smiled. "Good job, team." As the station flew back to its place near the planet, Tom felt proud. Maybe he wasn't just lucky. Maybe he really could be their captain. But he also wondered, what would their next challenge be? The station was quiet. Tom walked through the halls, feeling proud of his team. They had saved the station from the energy field. Now the power was full, and everything worked smoothly. The lights glowed softly, and the air smelled fresh, like flowers from Nia's garden room. Tom smiled as he passed Lyra working on a panel. She gave him a small nod. "Everything good?" Tom asked. "Yes, Captain," Lyra said. "Power is stable." Mira flew by on a small hoverboard. "I made coffee," she said cheerfully. "Want some?" Tom laughed. "Sure." They sat together in the kitchen, drinking warm cups of Mira's coffee. Naya served soft bread with fruit jam. Zara sat quietly, reading her medical journal. Everything felt peaceful. But peace never lasted long on Nova 1. Suddenly, the station alarm gave a soft beep. It wasn't loud, but it made everyone look up. "What's that?" Tom asked. Lyra checked her wrist screen. "A ship," she said. "It's close." Zara stood up. "Is it friendly?" Lyra shook her head. "I don't know." Tom set down his cup. "Let's go see." In the control room, Mira was already at the pilot's seat. She pointed at the screen. "Look," she said. On the screen, a small ship floated near the station. It was silver, shaped like a teardrop. Blue lights blinked along its side. It didn't move closer, but it stayed in place. "It's hailing us," Lyra said. She pressed a button. A soft voice came from the speakers. "Requesting permission to dock," the voice said. "I mean no harm." Everyone looked at Tom. He took a deep breath. "Let them in," he said. Lyra nodded. Docking in progress. Tom walked to the landing bay. Zara and Nia followed him. Lyra stayed at the control panel, watching everything closely. Mira flew behind them on her board, holding a camera. "This is exciting," she whispered. The docking bay door opened with a hiss. The small ship floated inside and landed softly. After a moment, the door of the ship opened. A figure stepped out. It was a girl. She had soft golden skin that shimmered in the light. Her hair was long and white, falling like silk around her shoulders. Her eyes were bright blue, like a clear sky. She wore a simple dress, pale like starlight. She stepped forward slowly. "Hello," she said gently. I am Ari. Tom smiled kindly. Welcome to Nova 1, he said. I'm Tom, the captain. Ori tilted her head. You are human, she said, sounding surprised. Tom chuckled. Yes, is that a problem? Ori smiled faintly. No, just unexpected. Mira flew forward. Hi. I'm Mira, she said quickly. Do you want a tour? Ori looked amused. Maybe later, she said softly. She turned back to Tom. I need your help. Tom raised his eyebrows. With what? Ori took a small glowing crystal from her pocket. This, she said. It powers my ship. But it's broken. Without it, I cannot go home. Lyra stepped forward and studied the crystal. It's a power core, she said. Very old, but I think I can fix it. Ari's eyes brightened. Thank you. They all walked to the workshop. Lyra placed the crystal on her worktable and started carefully opening it. Tom watched as she worked slowly and gently. Ori stood close, her hands folded. It may take time, Lyra said. We have time, Tom said with a smile. Nia brought more tea and snacks. Mira showed Ari around the station. Ori seemed curious about everything. The plants in Nia's garden, Mira's hoverboard tricks, and Zara's careful work in the medbay. You live here? Ori asked Tom later. Tom nodded. Yes. I bought it. For $1. Ori smiled softly. You were lucky. Tom laughed. That's what I thought. But now I think it wasn't luck. I think maybe I was meant to be here. Ori looked at him closely. Perhaps. Later that night, Lyra called everyone back to the workshop. I fixed it, Lyra said quietly. She handed the crystal back to Ari. It glowed brightly now, full of power. Ori looked at it with wonder. You have my thanks, Ori said, bowing her head. You're welcome, Tom said. But Ori didn't leave right away. She sat with them in the common room, watching the stars. She spoke of faraway places, floating cities, and songs made of light. Mira's eyes sparkled with excitement. Zara even smiled a little. Tom listened quietly. He felt happy. The station was full of life and friends. And now, maybe one more. Stay a while, Tom said softly to Ari. She looked at him and smiled. Maybe I will. And just like that, Nova 1 had a new friend, and maybe a new adventure waiting. Days passed on Station Nova 1, and life became busy but peaceful. Tom felt proud of how things were going. Every day, something new happened. Ori was still there, and she had become part of the team. She often helped Nia take care of the garden, and she loved to listen to Mira's stories about Earth. One morning, Tom was having his usual coffee when Lyra called him to the control room. Captain, Lyra said, looking serious, we've picked up a strange signal. Tom sat down beside her. What kind of signal? It's very old, Lyra said. And it's in human language. Tom blinked. Human. Out here. Lyra nodded and pressed a button. A crackly sound filled the room. It was a voice, but it sounded faint and broken. Help. Anyone. This is Colony Vega. We need help. The message repeated again and again. The voice sounded tired and weak. Tom leaned closer. Where is it coming from? Lyra pointed to the screen. A blinking dot showed a small planet not too far away. It's an old colony, Lyra explained. Abandoned for years, or so we thought. Tom stood up. We need to check it out. Zara walked in, holding her medical bag. It could be dangerous, she said calmly. We'll be careful, Tom promised. He looked at Mira. Are you ready to fly? Mira grinned. Always. Soon, the team was on their small transport ship, heading toward the planet. Tom, Mira, Zara, and Ari were all there. Lyra stayed on the station to keep things running. As they got closer, they saw the planet. It was gray and dusty, with clouds that swirled slowly. The colony was on the surface, a group of small silver buildings. Some were broken. Some still stood tall. Mira landed the ship softly near the colony. "Stay close," Tom said as they walked toward the main building. Ori touched his arm gently. "I sense sadness here," she said quietly. Tom nodded. "Let's see if we can help." Inside the colony, everything was still. Dust floated in the air. The walls were cracked, and old lights blinked slowly. They walked through empty halls until they reached a door with a faded sign. "Main control room." Tom pushed the door open. Inside, there was a person sitting at a desk. She looked up when they entered. Her hair was white, and her face was tired. But her eyes were bright with hope. "You heard my signal," she whispered. Tom nodded. "We did. I'm Tom. We're from Station Nova 1. The woman smiled weakly. "I'm Kara. I thought no one would ever come." Zora hurried forward and checked Kara's pulse. "She's very weak," Zora said softly. "We need to get her back to the ship." Ori placed her hand on Kara's shoulder. "You're safe now." They carefully helped Kara stand. She was thin and shaky, but she managed to walk with their support. "Are there others?" Tom asked. Kara shook her head sadly. "No, I was the last." Tom felt a heavy sadness in his chest, but he smiled kindly. "Then you'll come with us." Back on Nova 1, Kara was given food and warm clothes. Zara checked her health and gave her medicine. Naya made soft soup and tea, and Mira told funny stories to make her laugh. Kara's face slowly became brighter. "Thank you," she said. "I was alone for so long." Tom sat beside her. "You're not alone anymore." Lyra walked in with a data pad. "Captain, there's something you should see." She showed him an old map from Kara's colony computer. It showed places marked with strange symbols. "What's this?" Tom asked. Kara looked and pointed. "That's where we found ancient machines," she explained. "They weren't human." Ari's eyes widened. "Ancient machines? From who?" Kara shook her head. "We never found out." Tom leaned back in his chair. "Maybe it's time we do." That night, Tom stood by the big window, looking at the stars. Ori walked up beside him. "You did a good thing," she said softly. "We all did," Tom replied. Ori smiled. "Where will you go next?" Tom smiled back. "I don't know, but I have a feeling there's more to discover." As they stood together, watching the stars, Nova 1 felt like home more than ever. But new adventures were waiting, and Tom was ready for them. Nova 1 was full of life again. Tom and his team had saved Kara from the old colony. Now, Kara was stronger. She spent her days in the garden with Nia or helping Lyra in the control room. Even Mira had made a special chair for Kara in the common area, where she could sit and watch the stars. But something was on Tom's mind. The map Kara had shown them still rested on his desk. It showed many places marked with strange symbols. Kara said they found old machines there. Machines that were not human. One morning, Tom gathered the team in the meeting room. "I think we should visit the place Kara marked on the map," Tom said. Lyra nodded. "It's not far. We can take the small ship." Zora folded her arms. "We need to be careful." Tom smiled. "We will. I promise." Ori looked at the map quietly. "These symbols," she said softly, "are from an ancient language. I've seen it before." Everyone turned to her. "Where?" Tom asked. Ori looked out the window. "Long ago, in my home world." Tom felt a chill. "Then maybe we'll find something important." They left Nova 1 in the morning. The small ship flew smoothly under Mira's careful hands. The planet they headed for was rocky and cold. Clouds covered the sky, and the ground was dark gray. But Lyra found a good landing spot near a deep canyon. "This is the place," Lyra said, pointing at the scanner. Tom looked out the window. A narrow path led down into the canyon. It was quiet, too quiet. "Let's go," Tom said. They climbed down the rocky path slowly. Tom led the way. Zora was behind him with her medical bag. just in case. Mira carried her scanner, while Lyra checked the readings on her wrist screen. Ori walked at the end, watching everything. At the bottom of the canyon, they found a door. It was tall and made of dark metal. Strange symbols were carved on it, the same ones from Kara's map. Ori touched the symbols gently. "This is a message," she said softly. "What does it say?" Tom asked. Ori closed her eyes. "Welcome, seekers." Tom smiled. "Sounds like they want us to enter." Lyra found a small panel next to the door. She pressed a few buttons. The door opened slowly with a soft hum. Inside, it was quiet and cool. The walls glowed faintly with soft blue light. The tunnel led them deeper underground. "This is amazing," Mira whispered. After a while, they came to a big room. In the middle stood a tall machine. It looked like a tower with rings floating around it. Lights blinked on its sides. Around the room, there were old seats and panels. It looked like a control center. Lyra walked up to the machine. "It's still working," she said with surprise. Tom stepped closer. "But what is it?" Ori studied the floating rings. "It's a star map," she said. "These rings show different galaxies." Mira's eyes widened. "You mean, this machine knows where other worlds are?" Ori nodded. "Yes, and maybe more." Lyra found a small screen. She pressed a button. A soft voice spoke in Ori's language. Ori listened carefully, then turned to the team. "It says this place was made by an old race called the Eldari," Ori explained. "They explored the stars a long time ago. They left these maps for others to find." Tom smiled. "And now we found one." Zara touched the glowing wall. "What should we do with it?" Tom thought for a moment. "We learn from it," he said. "And we share what we learn." Lyra saved the data into her pad. "I can bring this information back to Nova 1, she said. Mira was already making plans. "We can find new places to explore," she said excitedly. Ori smiled. "And maybe meet new friends." Tom nodded. "That's why we're here." They spent the rest of the day gathering information. The machine showed them star maps, names of old planets, and even messages from the Eldari. Some messages were about peace. Others were about sharing knowledge. Before they left, Tom stood in front of the machine. He touched the panel and spoke quietly. "Thank you," he said. The machine glowed softly, as if it understood. Back on Nova 1, everyone was excited. Kara listened to their story with wide eyes. Naya made a special meal to celebrate. Tom stood by the window that night, watching the stars. Ori joined him, as she often did. "We are not alone," Ori said softly. Tom nodded. "No, and that makes this adventure even better." They stood in silence, dreaming of the new journeys waiting for them. Life on Nova 1 had become exciting after the discovery of the ancient Eldari star map. Tom and his team studied the maps every day. They found many new star systems and strange symbols. Some places had names, but many were marked with a single word: unknown. One evening, Tom sat with Lyra and Ari in the control room. The star map from the canyon was displayed on the large screen. "We found 20 new systems," Lyra said, "but one stands out." Ori nodded. "This symbol means home in the Eldari language." Tom leaned closer. "You think it's their home world?" Ori's eyes shone. "Maybe. Or a place they wanted others to find." Tom smiled. "Let's go." The next morning, Tom gathered everyone. "We're going on a long trip," he said, "to find the Eldari home." Mira grinned. "I'll get the ship ready." Nia packed food supplies. Zara brought medical kits, just in case. Even Kara helped Lyra gather the maps. Before they left, Tom spoke to the station computer. "Nova 1, stay safe while we're gone," he said. The lights blinked softly in reply. They traveled for days, passing bright stars and colorful gas clouds. The ship hummed quietly as Mira guided it through space. One night, Tom stood by the window, looking at the stars. Ori joined him. "Do you ever get scared?" Tom asked. Ori smiled. "Sometimes, but I'm not afraid with you." Tom felt warm inside. "We're a good team." Ori nodded. "Yes, we are." Finally, they'd reached the place marked on the map. A blue planet floated ahead. It looked peaceful, with green lands and silver oceans. Strange towers rose from the surface, glowing softly. Mira flew the ship down slowly. "This is beautiful," she whispered. They landed in a wide field of tall silver grass. The sky was bright, and two suns shone above. Tom and his team stepped out of the ship. The air smelled sweet and fresh. "Is anyone here?" Zara asked quietly. Suddenly, a soft humming sound filled the air. Light shapes floated toward them. They looked like people made of light, tall and graceful. Tom stepped forward carefully. "Hello," he said. One of the light figures spoke. Its voice was calm and warm. "Welcome, travelers," it said. "You have found our message." Ori bowed her head. "Are you the Eldari?" The figure nodded. "We are what is left of them. Long ago, we became light in mind. Our bodies are gone, but our hearts remain." Tom listened carefully. "We found your maps. They helped us." The Eldari figure smiled. "That is why we left them, so others could learn, grow, and share." Lyra stepped forward. "Can we learn from you?" The figure nodded again. "Yes, we have many things to teach." They spent days learning from the Eldari. The team sat in a round room filled with light. Images floated in the air, showing how the Eldari traveled the stars, helped other races, and lived in peace. Mira loved hearing about the Eldari ships. "They're so fast," she said. Nia was amazed by their gardens. "Their plants heal and feed at the same time," she said. Zara studied their medicine and smiled. "I can help more people now." Lyra saved all the knowledge to share with others later. Tom asked many questions. "Why did you leave these lessons for us?" He wanted to know. The Eldari explained. "Long ago, we learned that sharing makes the universe better. We wanted others to find a better way." Ori listened quietly. She seemed to understand them deeply. One day, she sat beside Tom. "I think this is where I belong," Ori said softly. Tom looked at her. "With them?" Ori smiled. "No, with you and Nova One." Tom felt happy to hear those words. Before they left, the Eldari gave them a gift, a small crystal that glowed with soft light. "This will guide you," the Eldari said. "When you are lost or need help, it will show the way." Tom accepted it with care. "Thank you," he said. The Eldari smiled. "Go now. Share what you have learned." They returned to Nova One after many days. The station lights blinked as if welcoming them back. Everyone was happy to be home. Kara listened to their stories with bright eyes. "You did something amazing," she said. Tom held up the crystal. "We all did." Ori stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "This is only the beginning," she said. Tom nodded. "Yes, there's a whole universe out there." And now, they were ready to explore it together. Life on Nova One was peaceful after Tom and his team returned from the Eldari world. The station felt warm and alive. New plants grew in the garden, thanks to Nia's hard work. The control room was full of new maps and star charts from Lyra. Mira was fixing up the ships, making them faster than ever. Zara was busy teaching Kara new things about healing. And Tom, he was thinking about their next adventure. One day, while Tom was in the control room, a soft sound came from the communication system. It was a message. Lyra checked the screen and smiled. "It's from the Eldari," she said. Tom stood up quickly. "What do they say?" Lyra read aloud. "You are invited to the great gathering." Everyone in the room looked at each other. Ori walked in quietly and nodded. "This is something important," she said. Tom smiled. "Then we're going." Later that day, They all met in the common room to talk about it. The girls were excited but also curious. "What is the Great Gathering?" Mira asked. Ori explained, "It's a meeting of many races. The Eldari invite those who search for peace and knowledge. They come together to share stories and ideas." Nia's eyes widened. "So there will be many different aliens?" Ori nodded. "Yes, and they are all friendly." Zara smiled. "This will be fun." Tom looked at them all. "We'll go as a team. Nova One will be part of something bigger." Kara tilted her head. "Will there be food?" Everyone laughed. "Yes," Ori said kindly. "There will be food." They spent 2 days getting ready. Mira checked the ship twice to make sure it was perfect. Lyra downloaded the maps of the meeting place. Zara packed medical supplies, just in case, she said. Nia brought seeds from the garden as gifts. Kara helped Ari choose a beautiful scarf to wear for the gathering. On the day of departure, Tom gathered everyone in the hangar. "We're not just a team," he said. "We're family. Let's show them who we are." They all smiled and boarded the ship. The journey to the Great Gathering took a few days. As they got closer, they saw many ships flying through space. Some were large and round. Others were small and bright like fireflies. It was like a parade of stars. Mira guided their ship through the crowd. "I've never seen so many ships," she said. Lyra checked the scanner. "There are over 200 different groups here." Tom looked out the window. "This is amazing." Soon, they reached a giant station floating in space. It was shaped like a flower with glowing petals. Each petal was a landing platform. "Welcome to Harmony," a soft voice said through the speaker. Mira carefully landed their ship on one of the petals. As they stepped out, they saw beings of all shapes and colors walking around. Some had wings, some floated without legs, and some looked like living crystals. But they all smiled kindly and waved hello. Kara held Tom's hand tightly at first. "So many people," she whispered. "It's okay," Tom said gently. "We're safe here." A friendly creature with 4 arms and soft green fur greeted them. "Welcome, travelers," it said. "Please follow me to the gathering hall." They walked through bright halls filled with music and soft light. Everywhere they looked, people shared stories, songs, and gifts. When they reached the hall, it was huge. Hundreds of beings sat in circles, talking and listening. The Eldari figure from before appeared and spoke. "Welcome, friends," the Eldari said. "Today, we share our dreams and hopes." One by one, different races stood and shared their stories. Some told about saving their worlds. Others spoke of new discoveries. Everyone clapped and smiled after each story. Then it was Tom's turn. He stood up slowly, feeling a little nervous. But when he looked at his friends, he felt strong. "We are from Nova One," Tom said, "a small station that was old and forgotten. But together, we made it a home. We learned from each other, shared our skills, and found friendship. We found hope again." The hall was quiet for a moment. Then the room filled with warm clapping sounds. The Eldari smiled. "This is the meaning of the gathering," they said, "sharing hearts and building peace." After the talks, there was a great feast. Tables were full of colorful fruits, soft breads, and glowing drinks. Kara was happy to taste new foods. Naya shared her garden seeds with a plant-like being, who gave her glowing flowers in return. Mira and Lyra traded stories about ships with others. Zara shared healing herbs and learned new ones. Ori sat beside Tom and looked at the stars through the glass ceiling. "This is only the beginning," she said. Tom nodded. "Yes, our family will keep growing." And as they laughed and shared stories, Nova One's team knew they were part of something much bigger. After the Great Gathering, Tom and his team stayed a few more days on the Harmony Station. They made many new friends from different worlds. Every day, they learned something new, new ways to grow food, build things, and heal sickness. But soon, it was time to go home. Tom gathered everyone together on their ship. He smiled as he looked at his team. Nova 1 is waiting for us, he said. Let's go home. Mira started the ship, and they left Harmony Station behind. As they traveled through space, everyone felt full of hope and excitement. When they returned to Nova 1, the station's lights blinked as if it was happy to see them. The place felt warmer, brighter. Kara jumped out of the ship and ran to the control room. "We're back," she shouted. The computer made a soft humming sound, welcoming them home. They all gathered in the garden later that day. Naya planted the glowing flowers she had received from the plant-like aliens at the gathering. The flowers shimmered softly in the wind. "These will make the garden even more special," Naya said with a smile. Zara opened a small box and showed everyone new healing herbs. "We can help more people now," she said proudly. Mira worked on the ship, adding new parts she had traded for at the gathering. "She's faster and safer now," Mira told Tom. "We can explore more places." Lyra updated the station's maps with all the new worlds they had learned about. "There are so many places we can visit," she said. Ori stood quietly beside Tom. She held the small Eldari crystal in her hand. "We are part of something bigger now," she said softly. Tom nodded. "Yes, and Nova 1 will be ready." Over the next few weeks, many changes happened on Nova 1. Other travelers started coming to visit. Some came to trade goods. Others wanted to learn from Tom and his team. One day, a small ship arrived carrying a group of peaceful travelers called the Irians. They had long, soft hair and gentle voices. They wanted to share their songs and stories. Another time, a family of small round creatures called the Bipos came. They brought special fruits that tasted sweet and helped people feel happy. Tom and his team welcomed them all. Nova 1 was becoming a place where everyone could feel safe and at home. One evening, Tom sat in the garden with Ori. The stars shone brightly above them. "You've made this station something special," Ori said. Tom smiled. "We did it together." Ori looked at him with gentle eyes. "What's next?" Tom thought for a moment. "We keep building. We help others. Maybe we'll visit more planets. Maybe we'll meet new friends." Ori nodded. "I'll be by your side." Tom felt happy to hear that. He took her hand gently. "And I'll be by yours." The next morning, Lyra came running into the control room. "We have a message," she said, her eyes wide with excitement. Everyone gathered around as Lyra played the message. It was from the Eldari. "Greetings, friends of Nova 1, the calm voice said. "We have another invitation for you. A new world has been found. It is full of life, but needs help to grow. We believe you are the right ones for this task." Tom smiled. "Looks like we have a new mission." Mira cheered. "Let's get the ship ready." Nia clapped her hands. "I can bring seeds and plants." Zara packed her healing herbs. "I'll help the people there." Kara giggled. "I'll make new friends." Ori stood tall beside Tom. "We'll go together." Tom looked at his team, his family. Nova 1 isn't just a station anymore. It's a promise. Wherever we go, we'll bring hope. They got ready for their new journey. The ship was full of supplies, gifts, and tools. The crystal from the Eldari glowed softly on the dashboard. Before they left, Tom spoke to the station's computer again. "Take care of Nova 1 while we're gone," he said. The lights blinked in reply. Then they were off, heading to a new world, a new adventure. As they flew through space, Tom looked at his team. They were smiling, working together, and laughing. He knew they were ready for anything. And out in the stars, Nova 1's story was just beginning. The end.